Hey, welcome back to Real Talk. Thanks for hanging out with us. He's Joe, I'm Brad. You ready for a cool fact?
You know, being around you, I am around cool things.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, cool facts.
The brain continues to work for up to 10 minutes after you die.
How can you know that?
That's just what science says.
That's
So if that's
not
true,
provable. How is that provable?
True,
It's not true.
if that's true, do you know you're dead?
This is the stupidest stuff ever. Of course you know you're dead. That's how I know it's not true. Wait, how would you connect a brain?
How would I connect a brain?
Could you, like, if you took a dead heart, like cut, this is figured out because you cut the head off a person after they died, I'm sure, and you rewired them to another person.
I didn't do that, let's be clear.
But somebody
Science
must
may
have. Some scientists cut someone's head off right after they died and reconnected it to another and
sure that's what
it's
they
sending
did.
Signals. How could it be alive for another 10 minutes?
I'm just telling you.
That's not
what the internet says.
That is redunculous.
For up to 10 minutes, the brain is continuing to function.
Huh?
I don't know. I'm just telling you.
Okay, so what's your point in this?
We're going to talk about what happens when we die.
Okay, so it really had nothing to do with that fact.
No.
And you weren't expecting I was going to debate it?
I just thought it was an interesting thing.
That's not interesting. That's frustrating to me. How says who that it's alive for?
There's a lot of physical things that occur with the body when you die.
Oh. So like twitching? Is that how they know?
Oh.
When you die, your body's twitching, and the only way that could happen
is if there's brain signals?
Oh, I can apply.
I don't
thought
know.
It was the cut
I'm
off
not
the head way. That's how they do. You apply it to somebody else's body, and
which means you cut the head off of someone else too.
Two people died at the same time.
Yes, and you switch
One
heads.
had a heart attack, and one had a brain attack. And you switched their components and it stayed alive for 10 more minutes.
I think that's what happened. Okay, let's get back on track here. We're going to talk about what happens when
you die.
When you die.
Cool.
So,
do people Google this?
Yes, that's right. So that's what the internet is asking. What happens when we die? And it's cool because there are a lot of different segments. We'll leave the physical one alone, but you should go and read this. It's really interesting. It's not just the brain that keeps working. There's all kinds of things that happen.
So are you really, so what does it mean to be dead?
I don't know, that's the question. Some of how we answer this question spiritually kind of informs physical, right? Because even if your brain is still working, what does that mean? We might have different interpretations of that than some people. So when a person dies, like, are we saying that's it in the physical realm and they move on to a spiritual realm?
There's an aspect of that I can agree with.
Okay.
There's another aspect where, because
the spiritual realm has always existed in a person's life. The physical ends, and now, for the time being, they don't exist in the physical world as we know it. In the spiritual realm, they do.
I like that qualification, as we know it.
I'm trying to get you to the place. We're on a journey. We're on a journey. No, I'm just trying to get you to the place of like, there is an afterlife.
Yes, there's
for
something
everyone.
So there's something about our physical body that dies, and that part of our life is over. Yeah. And there's a new part, a new type of life that happens.
Yes. What happens next after the physical life? Yeah. We don't know a lot about.
No.
Fair?
Questions. Yeah.
So we're gonna touch on a few things, but we don't know a lot about.
No. Good.
But I think what we would say is there's only one of two options past this life. Are you good to that?
I'm not sure, depending on what you're going to say next. Go ahead, keep going. There's some options.
There are some options.
Two in your mind.
Long term, there's two.
Oh yes.
Are you good with that?
Got it. Long term.
Okay.
Got it. The long-term destination of a human, there's only two options, as the Bible teaches.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, good. So we have some good foundational stuff. When a person lives the end of this physical life, they go into the next life. All of us will go into the next life. We will either go into eternity in heaven or eternity in what the Bible calls hell.
Or eternity with God and eternity apart from God.
I'm not good with that, but we'll circle back.
Good.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I think eternity in God's presence.
Yes.
Eternity outside the presence of God's blessing and just.
We're good.
Okay, cool.
I'm there.
Because separated from God sounds neutral. Yes. There's no neutral.
And there's no place that's outside of God's sovereignty.
Right.
So nothing, it's just not out, it's outside of his blessing and connectedness and intimacy and grace and mercy.
Yes. Good. Look how far we've made it so far.
Well, I think we've confused everybody.
Probably us the most. Okay, here's a good question. Heaven and hell, what do we do there?
Hang out with God or don't hang out with God?
Oh.
I mean, at the highest
level, that is kind of it, right?
Connected with God forever?
Yeah.
Engaged with God forever? Or not engaged with God? And we
forever?
Yes. And so one of the things I think that's hard is right now in our physical realm, a lot of us feel like we're not connected and engaged with God, and yet we are.
Yeah.
Because we're under his providence, blessing, the blessing, common grace of just living life and oxygen and gravity and light and love and opportunity, all of that common grace of God that we take for granted. And people go, where's God? It's like, he's everywhere, holding everything together, giving you everything you have for life and breath and everything. To be outside of that is eternal. And so I think that's the biggest thing that defines our eternal destiny is with him, under his and in his blessing and favor, or apart from his blessing and favor in a world that we've never experienced, or something we've never experienced because it's that dark.
Yeah, because
and without
even a person who in this life rejects all of God, who he is, his blessing and everything, they're still living under some level of common grace.
Where
there's gravity in the world. There's governments that provide safety and structure in the world. There's rain that waters the tree. Like, that's not because anyone is great. That's just God's grace to us. And everyone benefits from that.
Even our darkest, foulest, worst days of humankind are still brighter, better, good, compared to eternity separated forever from God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the worst that humans have ever done to each other is, and the darkest, most depressing day is still better than eternity separated from God forever, because we're outside of his love and light completely in dark forever.
And I think, I mean, as best as we can understand forever, which in some ways we can't because we live in a world defined by time and space, but as best as we can understand forever, I think there's something about, I can get behind heaven forever, like the idea of God's blessing forever, because God's blessing is endless. Something I really, like, I even bristle against what you just said. It's like, I'm not arguing, but it's like, I don't like the idea of a person being outside of any of God's blessing, punished for eternity. Like, that's really hard to get your mind around. And in fact, there's a line of thinking called annihilationism, right? Which is the idea that God will punish people in hell for a certain amount of time, but he's not going to let it go on forever. He'll just end it and they'll cease to exist. There's something, I'm not saying I hold that position, but there's something attractive about that.
Oh, of course.
Right? Because there's like relief in it.
Yep. Our understanding, I mean, that's why we have to be clear that when we die physically, there is these two destinies that happen, and one is apart from and one is with, and that it's not annihilation from the moment you die, right? It's like some people go, well, when you die physically, there's nothing.
Sure.
It's like, no.
That's the
You cease to exist. Like, no, you live on in another realm, and it is comforting in our human minds to think that that would be better than God allowing someone to live forever in conscious punishment. That puts into question the goodness and the character of God in my mind. But I fall back on the goodness and character of God to say, if that's what he says and teaches in the Bible, then I believe it and understand a goodness to it that's hard for me to comprehend in my finite mind. But somehow he remains good even in that. Yeah,
it's just hard to think of any person suffering for all of time. You know, like that's just this, I don't know, that's hard because, you know, media and things, we've painted how like, you know, you're going to play pool and drink beer all day and listen to rock music and this is like hell, right? And you're like, that's not quite it. You know, it's like the darkest moments you could imagine.
Multiplied.
Exponentially and getting worse each day. Like, you're not going to go, well, I'll wake up tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. It's like, no, tomorrow's going to be worse. That's really hard to fathom. Even to fathom why God would do that.
Yeah, and I think it's super humbling to sit here as mere mortals and discuss this and go, as a human, I can't understand how God could be good and that is okay. But if that's what the Bible teaches, then I believe it, even though I can't fathom it and it doesn't feel good at all.
Jesus tells that story about the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. And the rich man, seemingly in the parable, is in hell, and it's really interesting, right? He understands the gap. He realizes that he's not unaware. He realizes where he is, and he understands he's outside of God's presence and blessing. It's like, it's sad, fascinating.
I think, too, the Bible speaks in limited language about all of this.
Yep.
So much of what the Bible is dealing with is the decisions we have to make today. And the character of who God is, and that intersection of his character with us today, and making decisions about this life, which are going to echo into the next life. I think if the Bible spoke more directly about heaven or hell, with God or apart from God, we would fixate on it too much. We already fixate on it.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that's why
there's mystery,
it doesn't?
I think so. I think there's purposeful silence in God's economy where he knows us as humans. I mean, the things he reveals to us about this life, about his character, about our decisions, we fail to follow that, and we're trying to be fixated on all the mystery.
Yeah.
Right? So if he gave us more about heaven and hell and angels and demons, we'd be totally fixated.
Yeah, I mean, even the Bible talks a lot about sort of a new heaven and new earth, an eternal heaven and earth, but even this sort of temporary middle state, like right now, if you die, we're not sure what that heaven experience looks like, or even hell experience looks like.
Because what the Bible teaches is about when sort of all of history culminates, then there's a separation out, or we're given new bodies, right? So what are, like right now, if you die and you don't have a physical body, what do you have?
I don't know.
Nothing in the Bible would say that you're disembodied. Like you don't have a physical body.
But you don't have your new resurrected body that Jesus talks about either.
Body,
yeah, right.
So what are you?
Right.
You're not, so I bristle against any sense of disembodiment.
Oh, like you're just floating around like a spirit?
Yeah, that just doesn't seem to be, in my opinion, that just doesn't seem to be anywhere in the scriptures that someone be disembodied. That I am recognizable. People are recognizable and embody something, but what is it? It's not your current physical body. It's not the future glorified body that we're promised.
Right.
What is it? And this is part of why some aspects of Christianity have come up with, like fill in that gap with purgatory or the intermediate state. What does that mean? And what does that look like? Well, the Bible's silent about it, except we know there is a category that right now our loved ones don't have a physical body who have passed, and they don't have their new glorified resurrected bodies, which will be forever. What do they have?
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
You don't know. But that's hard and confusing.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I always think when Jesus says to the thief on the cross, today you'll be with me in paradise, right? And so even there's some argument for what's called soul sleep, that when you die physically, until the time Jesus comes back and we get our resurrected body, that we're basically in this state of sleep, right? So people have made this argument, but Jesus seems to rule that out when he says, no, today you'll be with me in paradise.
Or
it's an experience.
When the scripture says, absent from the body, present with the Lord.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, okay, I've left aside this physical body, but I'm immediately in the presence of the Lord, and yet not in the full glorified way and in the new heavens and the new earth. And we don't really talk about this, but it's like this earth is the place we will live forever, not flying around in the clouds somewhere.
Yeah.
He's going to make this into a new heaven and a new earth. He's going to take the old and wipe it away, and in new glorified bodies we reside here. Right? So what happens between now and then?
Yeah.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions. Lots of mystery.
Maybe we should Google it.
Oh.
If we would just Google it.
You didn't even like the brain thing.
I don't like that.
That was from Google.
I know, but it's just I tried to figure out how you'd figure that out. It just doesn't make... I'm going to Google that for sure. Okay. More questions than answers.
Yep. What happens when we die depends on the decisions that we make in this life. And there's only two options, ultimately. Is that fair? Are those things fair?
It's God or not God.
Yeah.
And then he gives us...
And you've said this before. What you choose in this life, he will give you for eternity. In a sense, like, he puts the choice in your hands.
So if in this life I say, God.
Yep.
Well, then in the next life he goes, God.
Right.
It's like, you didn't want me then.
Right.
Why do you want me now? So it's hard reality.
That's good.
It's not good.
Well, no, I mean, we've solved some things.
I don't think so.
You should donate your body to science when you die.
I am. It's already a done deal.
Really?
You can have. If anybody would take this,
nope.
If anybody would take this body, they can have it.
See you next time.